of my recommendations for the top 5 historical films you probably haven't heard of or watched yet. At number 5 we have Kingdom of Heaven, which follows a semi-fictionalized portrayal of the life of Balian of Ibelin, who was a crusader noble and the primary leader for the defense of the Christian-held Jerusalem during the siege of Jerusalem in 1187 against Saladin and his Muslim forces. This film has some A-list actors in it such as Liam Neeson, Orlando Bloom, and Eva Green. So the acting is top tier, the battle scenes are also amazing, and the plot is very intriguing and historically accurate, even if it does stumble at some places and has a bit of an awkward and slow start. This story of the defense of Jerusalem by a small Christian force against a massive Muslim army led by military genius Saladin is a fantastic story to tell and have brought to the big screen, and a film that despite its famous cast is relatively unknown to most audiences, and one that I can recommend to all lovers of cinema, not just history fans. At number 4 we have The Centurion, which is a historical action film based around a fictitious story about the 9th Legion's disappearance in Britain. This film stars Michael Fassbender as one of the last survivors of a group of Roman soldiers who are captured by a large force of wild Britons and held as hostages by these outlaws, who have a deep hate and desire for revenge against all Romans. This is a great film with a fantastic and interesting storyline, great plot twists, and most of the main cast do a fantastic job of bringing their characters to life, but some of the side characters are underwritten and not fully developed. If you are looking for a film that tells of an adventure about one man's fight for survival in an ancient British historical backdrop, then The Centurion is my recommendation for you. At number 3 it is Risen, a historical biblical drama film which portrays the events shortly after Jesus' death, but from the viewpoint of a Roman tribune who is tasked with investigating into the rumors about one of the people who recently got crucified and quell the rumors in Jerusalem of him being a Messiah. This is an interesting take on the crucifixion of Jesus, as this film has most of the events portrayed through the eyes of a Roman and a non-believer who is not interested in the Messiah status of Jesus, but is just wanting to get his job done and get it done quickly. This film has a very unique and gripping storyline, amazing acting by the entire cast, and it depicts many biblical events in a less over-the-top manner than I have seen in many other films of the same genre. However, there are a few issues with the film. Firstly, the pacing is a bit inconsistent, with events occurring which don't always make sense but are just thrown in to move the plot along. Also, the issue of whitewashing is at the forefront here, as there's a minimal number of non-white actors or characters in this film. However, this is a shortcoming that I'm happy to ignore in this film, as historical accuracy does not seem to be a primary concern of Risen. This is a film which is more interested in bringing a new representation of the historical events around Jesus' crucifixion, which it does a very great job of. Definitely a strong recommendation from me, whether you are Christian or not. At number 2 we have Ironclad, which is a historical film based around the siege of Rochester Castle by King John, the same King John that can be found in Disney's Robin Hood movies. This is a film which is based around true events of the siege of Rochester Castle, in which a small group of rebels and noblemen during the First Barons' War tried to hold Rochester Castle against King John after he broke on his promises that he agreed to during the signing of Magna Carta. This film follows a generic B-grade film formula in which a romance is rushed and added in just because every story needs a celibate Templar to fall in love with the noble woman, and character development is done through two characters just communicating in a few lines of dialogues every now and then. But what the film does get right is its battle scenes to display how difficult it is for a small force to protect a fortress from invaders, and the general plot and storyline is interesting enough that the viewer feels compelled to watch the movie to the very end. This is not the best historical film I have seen by far, but it is definitely a worthy recommendation for someone looking for a more simplified and concise story to watch. And at the top of this list we have Arn the Knight Templar, which is based around a Knights Templar named Arn, if you couldn't decipher the clues in the name of the movie. But this is actually a two-part film series which is based off the best-selling Crusades trilogy written by Jean Guillot, which sees a fictional character named Arn who becomes a Knights Templar and is witness or a catalyst to many real historical events such as the Battle of Montgisart and the Battle of Hattin. One thing I really loved about this film was the range of different languages spoken by the Knights on Crusade, which would have been very common during this time, as Knights would have come from various countries from Europe. to fight in these holy wars and would have also spoken a range of languages. Arne the Knight Templar is also the most expensive film ever created in the history of Swedish cinema and is a fantastic feat of storytelling, cinematography, and bringing a semi-accurate historical representation of the Knights Templars to our screens. Definitely a strong recommendation for